Hi,
So look,
guys.
I just want to kick off by letting Prue and Tom introduce who they are. And then Sandy's going to say hello and give us a wave, introduce who she is and what her role is in the department. And then we're going to do an acknowledgement of country and dive into the content. Prue and Tom, over to you guys. Say hello, tell us who you are before we dive into the whole presentation.
Hi, guys. Thanks for having us. I'm Prue.
And I'm Tom.
We're a brother and sister duo. And we are the founders of an aeroponics system called Air Garden. And we are really excited to be here with you guys for Science Week and looking forward to sharing some of our journey with you guys.
It's good to be back at school. We're a little bit nervous. It's like we're doing a talk in front of the class, except there's 350 of you. So just be gentle in the comments with us. But we're really excited and we're really looking forward to the opportunity to have a chat to you all.
Thanks, guys.
I'm just saying hi. I'm jumping off. I'm going to man the chat, keeping out my beady eyes out for relevant questions. Okay, see you guys at the end.
Thanks, Sandy. Let's always make sure whenever we're doing a meeting together, teachers and students, we want to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land that we're on. And I'm going to do that by playing a short video that the Department of Education has made available to us.
We acknowledge the first Australians as the traditional custodians of the continent, whose culture is the oldest living culture in human history. We pay our respects to elders, past, present and emerging, and we respect their cultural heritage, beliefs and relationship with the land. We extend our respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people here today. They share the memories, traditions and hopes of the traditional ancestors with the new generations today and in the future. We would also like to thank them for looking after this land for thousands of years.
Science Week this year is all about food and how food is made and produced. And today, Tom and Prue are going to talk to us about an invention that they have created to solve a problem. And that's, of course, what a lot of our science work is all about, inventions that solve problems. And I did a little bit of research myself, and Prue and Tom are really passionate about this thing here called the food system that you can see. And one of the things that I thought was a little bit broken about the food system or that needs improving is, check this out. Now, teachers, you might like to take this idea and expand upon it with your class about the food system and parts of the food system that are not working great anymore. 7.3 million tons of food in Australia is wasted every year, thrown into the bin, while 5 million Australians are going hungry. Well, that doesn't make sense to me, right? To me, that looks like it's a bit broken. There's something wrong with the way that we're doing food. Do you know, I know that Tom and Prue are itching to talk about what they are doing about this challenge. So I'm going to hand over to them. Now, Prue, are you okay to share your screen? Are you in control of that?
Anyway, guys, as Lawrence was saying, and you guys were talking about in the chat, we also thought that there were some problems with the food system, the way we were producing food, the way we were consuming it. It didn't have a lot of flavor. There wasn't a lot of nutrient in the food that we were eating. And we also were keenly aware that we were just wasting so much of our food. So we actually thought we could solve this problem, Tom and I, and we thought we'd just grow our own food at home. But it wasn't actually quite as easy as we thought it was. So don't know about you guys, but has anyone tried to grow their own food at home? Put our hands up in our chat.
So the next thing we found out was we needed to ask ourselves the question, why was it really hard to grow our own food at home in our gardens? Why did we keep failing? And what are the common challenges for everyone really with growing your own food?
One of the things, oh, there we go. We found that the pests were sometimes eating the food faster than we were growing it or able to eat it.
We couldn't get our soil right. It was really hard to know if there was enough nutrients in it and the level of water was okay. It was a really big unknown and a really big factor we just couldn't kind of get a handle of.
We also found the Australian weather was really not helping us. And in different parts of Australia, it was really harsh and the climate varied massively. And in Brisbane in summer, it was super hot, and that caused us some real challenges.
We overwatered and underwatered. We could never quite find the balance.
And our plants had diseases on their leaves.
And it was also taking up so much time for very little results. We really wanted to get more bang for our buck.
So Tom and I started thinking about how else could we grow food? Like, there must be an easier way to do this and have more success in doing that.
So how can we have success without a green thumb and lots of experience? We killed a few cactuses, trust us, we were exactly like all of you guys who've tried and probably failed.
We didn't have a lot of space, so we needed to try and figure out how we could grow an abundance of food with really minimal amounts of space available to us.
And how can we do it with limited time? We're all really busy, right?
So what we wanted to make sure was how can we also identify a way for growing food that was not only good for us, but it was really good for the environment and the planet?
And was there something we could buy off the shelf to solve our problem and make growing our own food easier?
It needed to be safe, and it really had to be affordable, because everyone should be able to do this in our mind in a country like Australia.
And how can we reduce the amount of food we're throwing away and wasting?
It's pretty scary that the average household is throwing out over $1,000 of food per year. And we thought there had to be a better way to solve some of these problems. So
then we found aeroponic technology. So it's growing food with rocket science.
now we can hear lots of you guys asking, what has growing food got to do with rocket science? And that is a really good question. But the good news for us is we weren't the only people that were trying to solve these problems around making growing our own food simple and easy. There were some really, really smart guys at NASA. Now, does everyone know who NASA is? Bit of a test here, guys. So we've got a bit of a selection here. So they're based out of the US, and they're responsible for all things to do with space and air. And NASA were trying to figure out, if we're sending astronauts into space for really long periods of time, how can we feed them good, healthy, nutritious food? Because there's only so much space in a spaceship that they can store frozen meals. They can't take a garden with them and big bags of soil to grow things, and there's limited amounts of water. So how exactly were they going to feed astronauts in space to make sure that they stayed fit and healthy and strong?
So here we can see it, guys. Here's how NASA developed some technology. You can see here, they're actually growing radishes in space. Now, compared to taking 100 bags of Doritos, I think for all of the astronauts in space, it's pretty amazing, right? Being able to grow leafy greens and veggies for themselves without any soil in really limited space. You can see there, and really quickly too, which is the most important thing.
So what NASA had developed, guys, was a system of growing food called aeroponics. And aeroponics is basically growing food or plants with the use of only air and water. There's absolutely no dirt or soil involved. It's just air and water. And the word aeroponics is actually derived from the Greek meaning air, being air, and ponos, meaning labor.
So how does aeroponics actually work? In aeroponics, seedlings are grown in a non-soil medium like coconut coir. And when the roots are visible, they're ready to be transferred into an aeroponic system to continue growing. And you can see here on the left, we have our air garden. So when our seedlings are ready to be transferred into our little growing spots there, we transfer them into a little black cup, and our base reservoir is filled with water and the liquid nutrients that we need for these plants to grow. And a pump will send those up, all that water up to the top, and deliver those water and nutrients directly to the plant's roots. And those plants' roots are suspended in air, as you can see on this little cutout here. And at all times, they're getting super high levels of oxygen, which causes really fast growth.
Now, Tom, just before we move on, I just wanted to clarify. Go back.
Yep.
That air garden, which is the white tower, you guys invented it. And this didn't exist in Australia before you guys, you saw all those problems that we talked about at the start, and you made your own solution. And so this invention is kind of what you're talking about, and it's using the technology that NASA discovered called aeroponics. So it's really exciting for me anyway, to be able to meet the inventors of such a cool product that's helping people.
And I'm pretty sure these guys are going to take us through how they thought about and how they did that invention. And that's the bit I'm hanging out for too.
Yeah, great, Sandy. You're absolutely right. So we, after doing all that research, looking at all the problems, looking at all the different options that were out there, Tom and I really loved aeroponics, and we decided that that was the solution that ticked all the boxes to the problems that we were trying to solve. And if you remember what those were, guys, we wanted to be able to grow our own food without having a green thumb or lots of experience. We wanted to be able to grow anywhere at any time. We wanted what we were doing to be good for us as people, but also good for the planet. We wanted to be able to do it with limited amounts of space and time. And we really wanted to make sure that we were reducing the amount of food that was currently being wasted, which was really important to us.
So the first step in the whole process of developing the product, we had to identify and define what the problem was that we had. So we identified the problem, and there wasn't any solution available in Australia. We needed to invent our own aeroponic system, kind of purpose-built for people like us, and really importantly for the Australian climate. It's really harsh compared to other parts of the world. Always. Thanks, Sandy. Thanks, Lauren. So yeah, the next step was basically blueprints, inventing. We said, okay, well, how are we going to design this? How are we going to do it? And we certainly we're not engineers.
No.
We're not experts in any way, but from our talks with Sandy and Lawrence, we're pretty certain that you guys know of SketchUp as well. You guys use SketchUp for some of your work. So we started.
Yeah, some of the big kids, but with another tool that younger people can use. So we're going to tell them about it at the end.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, well, we started drawing up what we wanted our system to look like. So we started using SketchUp to do that. And you can see some of our first sketches there in regard to our system.
We also, once we designed, I guess, what that system kind of needed to look like, it needed other parts to actually make it work. So it wasn't just the system by itself. We also needed to figure out what sort of pump are we going to need to make sure that it can pump water vertically up to over 2 meters in height. We needed to make sure that this system was going to be automated in its watering. So we had to find a timer, but it also needed to be waterproof because it was predominantly going to be outside in that harsh Australian climate and weather. We couldn't use soil because we were using aeroponics. So we had to find a growing medium that was sustainable, that we could start our seedlings in and then transfer them into the system in. We needed to have something to hold those live seedlings in place once we transferred them into our aeroponic system. And we also needed to find a nutrient that was not full of harmful chemicals, and it was going to really help us to grow those plants. So there are a couple of other moving parts that we had to consider in this initial process of creating our aeroponics system.
Now, the next step is producing and implementing. So what we had to look for in a manufacturing partner, we'd kind of settled on the design and played around with it a little bit. We had to now find someone local to make that for us. So number one, the original equipment manufacturer v. an original design manufacturers. Second being capabilities and expertise. So once you've identified the type of partnership you're looking for, the next thing to consider is an organization's capabilities and expertise. Can they deliver what you need? Do they have the skills and the expertise to do that? Quality. How good is the quality of the things that they produce currently? And is it up to standard and up to scratch? Their track record of delivery, And a big thing for us as well that we found too was communication, right? Communication is key, especially when you're making something complex, something new, something that's going to grow your food. You really need to make sure that whoever is helping you make the product, you have very clear lines of communication. The next thing obviously is pricing. As Prue alluded to at the start, we wanted this to be affordable for everyone. We wanted everyone to have the ability to be able to buy one and grow their own food. So pricing was really, really important. And the next one, flexibility. And trust us, guys, when you're trying to build something from scratch, having the ability to have your manufacturing partners pivot and maybe change tack because something isn't quite working or you can't get a certain piece or a part, you really need to be able to pivot and have some flexibility in what it is that you're doing and in the process that you're trying to create.
And for Tom and I, we did lots and lots of meetings and we interviewed lots and lots of different manufacturers. And using that checklist, we came to the conclusion that we were going to work with a group called the Evolve Group. They were specialists in exactly what we were trying to do, but best of all for Tom and I, they were right in our backyard. So we're based in Brisbane and these guys were based in Brisbane too. And the big benefit of that meant that we could actually be on site with these guys through the whole journey while we were developing our air garden or our aeroponics system. So that was really, really important. So lots of people do this part of their process offshore in other countries like China or India. But for us, it was really important that we were building something that was Australian made, which also comes with the benefit of the visibility, the quality of produce, safety and transparency to the whole process. So that was really important to us, and the Evolve Group was a great partner.
So this is a slide here, guys, and you can see here, it's a design and development process as outlined by our manufacturing partners. As you can see here, if you look down through the middle, we've got step 1, step 2, step 3, all the way up to step 15, which is it looks like a pretty long process, right? You'd think, okay, after 15 steps, we'd be pretty close to having something ready to go and ready to sell and ready to work. But in all reality, it took a few more. So I don't know if you can see, there's a few little grey hairs here. There's a few little grey hairs there.
There's many more on me.
This whole process took us about 29 steps, and we started it back in, when was it? Next. Yeah.
So we started it quite a while back, but you remember those initial drawings that Tom showed before that we started doing with the SketchUp? When we took it to the manufacturers who are engineers and specialists in developing, they took those initial drawings that Tom and I had done and they really took them to the next level. So our initial SketchUp drawings became quite complex tooling and sketching drawings. And this gives you a little bit of an idea of what the engineers did with our initial design and concept.
And here you go. So basically that whole process led to this next step. So if you look at the picture on the left, that massive big piece of steel that looks like the size of a fridge, and it basically is, you can see that little hook there and the big chain just to the left there, the top left of it. That crane lifts up that big tool there, and that tool is actually what makes the white body part on the right, in the photo on the right. So you can see as we go through all of these different slides, all of those drawings that you saw in a few of the previous slides where we'd created in SketchUp and then the engineers further refined, all of those turned into what we call tools. And you can see there, that tool on the left makes a part that is a little lid that covers the base on our system. The next on the left, you can see this big thing, looks like something out of a steampunk kind of funny thing. It's kind of a little bit rusty. That particular tool is what makes the base where all the water sits in our system, the reservoir, basically.
So can I get this right, Tom? Is that sometimes when you're inventing something, you've got to create other things to help you make what you're actually inventing?
That's correct.
That's a process you guys went through. And so students, when you are thinking about inventing things in your classroom for your projects, maybe sometimes you've also got to build that extra piece of something to help you with your project. And even if it's not part of the final project, it's part of the step. So there's lots of steps. I mean, Tom, you had what, 29 different steps, you know, for your invention. So sometimes there might be more steps when you students are doing your projects. That's amazing.
I'm just going to ask a quick question on behalf of Kiana. She's asked, how long did it take you? Did it take you years, or what was the time frame?
That is a very good question, Kiana. We're actually about to come into exactly how long that process was in the next couple of slides. So
Chris did as well. So yeah, Chris.
Great question. And it did take us some time. So once we'd done that whole tooling process, we actually had to test. So this is our very first prototype that you can see here. And this is us testing. Does this actually work? Have we designed it correctly? Do we need to go back to the drawing board? And I don't know if you guys can see, but can anyone see something that might be a problem in the image on the left here when we were testing? We got some answers, some suggestions coming through. What's happening on the left?
Sorry, guys, I just turned the chat back on.
Oh, sorry, Lawrence.
That's okay. We've got some really excited students.
Sleeping.
Yes,
it's right, guys.
Maybe not big enough. It's spilling, it's tilted, the water's pouring out. I'm just reading some of these. It's coming from the side, too much water.
Yeah.
What products did you use?
Yeah.
It's not big enough, that there's a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
It's not compatible. It's not fitting.
That all of those things, guys. So all of those things that you are saying, when we got our first prototype, we had all of it. So there was a lot of refining and a lot of testing and a lot of going back and looking at things and changing and tilting and doing things differently. So we did do, apologies, our doorbell just rang. A lot of things we had to go back and continue to refine on this journey to actually having a working product. In good news, we kept testing, we kept evaluating, and this is where we got to. So our design worked and we could grow our own food. So we started this process, guys, at the end of 2017. And in April 2020, we took 150 air garden aeroponic systems to market. And the good news was people love them and they could do all of the things that we were trying to do. It was 90% easier than traditional gardening. We were using 95% less water, 95% less space. It was super simple. People didn't need a lot of time and they were getting great results.
All right, do you want to turn the chat back off again?
That looks amazing. What kind of plants can we grow?
Great question.
Good question, Lawrence. You can grow up to 150 or more than 150 fruits, veggies, leafy greens, herbs. Really, the only thing you can't grow is rooting vegetables or plants that grow under the ground. So or food that grows under the ground. So think of kind of potatoes, sweet potatoes, things like that. We can't quite grow an apple tree, mango tree, all that kind of stuff. But anything really that you guys would probably buy from the supermarket for your salads, for dinners and lunches, and are probably on your sandwiches, or your lettuces, tomatoes, cucumbers.
You can
chili,
grow in aeroponics.
Everything you can pretty much grow.
Strawberries.
Strawberries, yeah. And
yeah, not eggs. Not eggs unless you're feeding the lettuce to the chooks.
And keep the ducks away.
Yeah, keep the ducks away, definitely. Yep. So unless it, if it grows on a tree or underground, it can't grow in an aeroponic system, but everything else is pretty well fair game.
That's amazing. Now I noticed that you guys have got one behind you.
We do.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you want to give us?
Hi, I'm Prue. And I'm Tom. And we're the founders of
There you go. Sorry, we went too quickly.
That's right. Georgina's just asked, do farmers and supermarkets use your machine?
Not yet, Georgina, but we're working on it.
Now, Prue, I know that there's some restaurants actually near
Yes.
my house.
Yeah, there are a few restaurants. So we're working with a few restaurant groups around Australia, which is really exciting. And why the restaurants love it, Lawrence, is because as a chef, one of the key things that you're interested in is flavour and taste in your food. And for a lot of the chefs, you can't get much fresher than taking the produce that you're using and cooking with literally straight from that air garden and directly into your kitchen. So instead of it traveling thousands of miles or a couple of 100 miles, it's literally going a couple of meters from the gardens straight to the tables.
And the really other important point to make here as well is about flavour, and especially for restaurants and chefs that want to maximise their flavour. One really amazing fact that we haven't really mentioned yet is that once you harvest something, cut its leaves or take it out of the ground, it can quite quickly lose its water and its nutrient density. So we know after about 48 hours that a lot of leafy greens that we consume, like rocket and cos lettuce and stuff, can lose up to 50% of their nutritional content.
Yeah.
So the amazing thing about the air garden is that because you're only picking it as you need it, you're really maximizing the nutrient that is coming into your body when you're eating it. And also the taste and the flavor is just amazing as well. You can really taste differences between your herbs and your leafy greens and things like that.
Yeah, it's a pretty scary fact, but and you know, part of the reason we eat greens is for the nutritional benefit, and food for the nutrient benefit. But spinach, within up to 4 hours after harvesting it, has lost 50% of its nutritional value.
Hang on. So that means, let's say I go to my local supermarket and buy some spinach that's been sitting on the shelf for half a day. It's already been in a truck coming from a farm.
Yeah.
So we think we're getting really healthy food if we're buying it it looks kind of fresh maybe, but if it's left the farm, yesterday, wow, it's already lost some of that nutrition.
It's lost some of it. And Lawrence, the thing is too, and we need to be fair as well. And a lot of farmers will, once they harvest that, put that straight into cold stores and get that chilled down. So when that transport process from their farm to the supermarket is occurring, they're minimizing that loss, but there still is a loss. There still is a loss, as opposed to being able to take it directly from where we're growing it and cooking it or eating it really quickly.
There's a loss, and there's also wastage.
A lot of wastage as well.
Okay, there are a couple of questions. One is about, do things grow faster, and what do you do if there's a disease?
Yeah, good question. Things definitely grow faster. And the reason things grow so fast with aeroponics is the really, really high levels of oxygenation, which is what plants need more than anything for their growth. So with aeroponics, unlike hydroponics, so in hydroponics, which often gets confused with aeroponics, the roots of the plants are constantly underwater. With aeroponics, as you can see from the picture Tom and I showed you before, the roots are suspended in the air and they get watered, and the nutrients falls onto them directly onto the root system in a cyclical manner. But most of the time, your roots are exposed to high levels of oxygenation, which causes that 3 to 4 times faster growth of the plants.
Yeah. And in regard to disease, that's a really good question as well. We do find we've got less pest pressure. So when people sometimes are growing food in the ground, you get a lot of what's called soil-borne diseases because your roots are under the ground and in soil. And the one advantage of the air garden system is that if we have some type of root disease that's attacking our plants, because these are in little cups and we can actually pull them out of the system and we can inspect that whole root system, we can pull that out. And on some plants, when they get really big, the roots can be 1 meter long. So you can really get a good look and inspect them. And we'll see if we can pull some out here for you.
Now, while you're pulling that out, Prue, I noticed that you've got that one indoors. Is there is that growing indoors, or should these aeroponic systems normally be outside?
This at the moment, Lawrence, they're generally outside, and we've pulled this one in inside so you guys can see it while we're chatting today. Having said that, there are definitely plans that this can be done indoors in the not too distant future.
So show us the root system you've got there. And there's no soil here, right?
No soil.
No soil.
So this is some perpetual spinach. I don't know if you guys can see that, but that's the root system there.
There you go. And you can see the color of that there, right, guys? So color's a really amazing indicator of health. And as we were alluding to before, if we think we might have a problem with our plants, and we usually can visually see that, right? We'll see leaves wilting or the color change or something. One of the first things that we can do is pull that plant out, and we can really easily inspect those roots for damage. And if we see that the roots have gotten brown and kind of discolored, they're a little bit slimy and funny, well, then we can take countermeasures or some steps to try and correct that. And if need be, we can completely change our water over, we can disinfect things, and we can kind of work backwards. So that's a really good advantage of our system, as opposed to sometimes in soil and dirt. Imagine having to do that with a lot of the plants, having to dig them up, excavate them, and then completely replace
the entire garden bed.
The entire garden bed with soil. So there are some really good advantages in terms of getting on top of those disease issues. That was a really, really great question.
I've got another interesting question from Ingrid, and she wants to know if you guys are using recycled materials.
Great question.
Georgina asked that before too. Yep.
Awesome. Thank you. Yeah, I love these questions, guys. It shows me that you are really thinking about what Prue and Tom are sharing. So your questions are really showing us that you're being really great learners today.
Yeah, it is a great question. It was one of the things that was really important to Tom and I when we were creating this system, that it was good for us and good for the planet. And one of the things with the air garden, it is made out of a plastic. It's not a single-use plastic. It's a food grade. So it has to be food grade, which is really important, and a medicinal grade, because if we're growing food and produce in there that we're going to eat and ingest, it can't be full of chemicals or bad toxins. So it's a specific food grade plastic that we utilize, and it's also UV stabilized for our Australian harsh climate. So the air garden, or the aeroponics system, recycles water. So it's very important that the material is UV stabilized, so that no bacteria is able to get into that system, or algae build up, which will cause a bacteria, which can then feed into the plants that we're eating. The good thing about this as well is that if at the end of its life you want to send it back to us, or you don't want it anymore, we'll take that aeroponic system back and we will recycle it. So the material that it is made out of will never actually end up in landfill. We take it back, we recycle it, and it will get made into other products.
Now, I've got another question from Georgina, and I know that you've talked about this a little bit. Do you use fertilizer or chemicals with the machine? Do you want to talk a little bit about just unpacking that a little bit?
And can I just add one thing? There's a whole lot of Georgina's students who are going, why am I being called my teacher? Georgina Knight, you must be really proud of your students, because they are asking fantastic questions. Just saying.
Good on you, Georgina. So for all the questions in regard to that, that's a really great question. We use a mineral-based liquid nutrient solution. So a lot of you who've probably been growing stuff in soil see the words organic bandied around. And organic is a really great term, but it's a very, very narrow term. And the word organic can only be attributed to anything that's growing in soil or a physical medium that's breaking down. The thing about our liquid nutrient and our system is that we're using earth-based minerals to grow. So all of the stuff that we're feeding our plants is the exact same stuff that plants in soil are taking out to grow. So the big three are N, P, and K, which is nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium, which when a plant's in soil, with water in that soil, the roots of the plant in soil are able to kind of access and grab those key elements out of that soil. So all we're doing is providing those exact same earth-based minerals in a liquid format to our plants.
Yeah. And as Tom said there, anything, unless it's grown in soil or a soil medium, it cannot be classified as organic. And aeroponics uses no soil, it's all air and water. So it can't be classified as organic, and minerals are also an inorganic material. So they too cannot be classified as organic, but we like to say it's better than organic.
Yeah. Because again, minerals, again, are the building blocks of life. They're of the earth. We cannot kind of create them in any way. They come from the earth, but they're just not organic. They're inorganic. Yeah. They're a building block of life.
We've had a couple of questions about actually people wanting to buy the air garden. Now, I guess all I really want to say, jump onto Google and just type in air garden. Yeah. And then they can reach out to you, I guess, through your website that way, if they've got other questions about how to buy that.
Sure.
That's it. Yeah. And a really good thing too, Lawrence and Sandy, and for all the students out there, we have a YouTube channel. And it's always good to look and learn things and see things visually, right? So if you go to our website, there'll be a link there for the YouTube channel, and you can see some of those really kind of cool steps of the air garden in full effect, and growing things and how we kind of transfer things and all that stuff. So it's a really good little learning tool.
I might actually add that YouTube link to the challenge page that we've created for students. So
yeah, we're going to
know that we've only got a few minutes left, so we need to start wrapping up.
Hi, I'm Prue. And I'm Tom, and we're the founders of Air Garden. Air Garden is Australia's first aeroponic garden that uses real-life rocket science to take the rocket science out of growing your own food.
The Air Garden is Australia's first gardening product to use NASA-developed technology called Aeroponics, which is the process of growing plants in air and mist without the use of any soil.
Why is aeroponics so cool? Because more than anything, plants love oxygen and H2O. Within the air garden, roots are suspended in the open air with no resistance from soil, which allows for super high levels of oxygenation. This is what makes them grow 3 times faster.
From seedlings, leafy greens are fully grown in 2 weeks and last for 2 whole months.
The air garden now gives me everything that I need.
So guys, hopefully that gives you a little bit of an idea. We wanted to show you that video so you could see the air garden in action and in motion and all the components of it. And one of the key things, I guess, for Tom and I in creating Air Garden was also making sure that we were creating a business and a company that was obviously for profit, but that we had a purpose. And that purpose really largely revolves around people and the planet. And so a lot of what we do really centers around making sure that everyone is thriving, not just surviving. And that was something that our mum really instilled in us, I guess, as kids when we were growing up. So part of the mission, I guess, of Air Garden and what we're doing is to make sure that we're giving back. And we feel that when we look at, I guess, some of those sustainable development goals, that the one that we can really align to as a business is really that number 2 goal around zero hunger and putting an end to hunger, making sure that there's great food security for everyone and that everyone's getting nutritious, sustainable food and agriculture. And Tom and I are working to make sure that we keep contributing to that and bringing that to life through a program called Grow It Forward, which will really, I guess, allow us to donate our aeroponic systems into communities and schools and all sorts of places to give back. Because, as I said, look, we're really, really passionate about ensuring that more people are thriving and not just surviving. So that's something that's really important to us as a business. And I guess as we wind up, one of the things that we want to put to you is, what are you guys going to do moving forward to continue to solve some of these problems as a school group, you know, with your friends, as communities, with your parents? But what sort of things do you think you might be able to do to really contribute to this sort of goal of zero hunger in the world?
And just as well, we just want everyone out there to know, look, you guys, everyone can do anything. You know, you don't have to be Superman or super rich or this, that, or the other. You know, everyone has the ability to do something great. You can certainly do it yourself. Don't be afraid to try. Have a go. You know, back yourself and just get behind it. If you're passionate about something, really just get in there and have a go.
Yeah, we're a brother and sister from Brisbane who had a problem and wanted to solve it.
Okay, setting the challenge out there.
That's great. Prue and Tom, thank you so much for joining us today. And so students in the chat, can you actually just kind of go clap, 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 or say thank you and express your appreciation for Prue and Tom giving up their time from their day-to-day life in Brisbane to share some of the technology and the design process. So it'll be lovely for you guys to say thank you to Prue and Tom in the chat. While you're doing that, teachers, in the STEM TFL Learning Library, there is a challenge page for you to take away. Now, there is a short link. Oh, Sandy, are you pasting that link in the chat?
I've put the chat in.
It's going crazy.
Everything's gone a bit crazy. But what I do want to do is I'm sharing my screen at the moment. I just want to very quickly, we've got 1 minute to go through the challenge. And the challenge is for every student out there to see, whilst they're working at home, we've got tools that we've put on this page. We've got videos on how to use the tools. And the challenge is, can you design a product, a process, because you saw that these guys created a process, or raise awareness to help support the United Nations goals of zero hunger. These guys have worked towards it. It's one of the UN's big challenges that we have in the world. Just taking a little step, what's something that you might be able to do? There's some ideas there about, could you create something or a message about freezing fresh produce or leftovers? What could you design to hold compost? Something about a message about don't rinse before you use the dishwasher. Start smart, shop smart, buy funny fruit. Science Week this week is around a theme of food design by difference. What we have is we have a template for you guys to do your design portfolio in. So if your teachers want you to do this project, there's one that's been created in PowerPoint. There's one that's created in Keynote. Your teachers can just point you to this. But as you can see, there are videos, and we talked about Tinkercad. It is a design product. Here's a video that shows you how to log in and use Tinkercad to design something just like these guys have, Tom and Prue have created. There's 2 Tinkercad videos. If there are any of you who are secondary students, we've got SketchUp and Onshape for you. So we're recommending that Tinkercad would be something that primary students might like to look at. If you're a bit more experienced, Onshape and SketchUp, that's the product that Tom actually used to do this. There's also Canva, and teachers, you'll need to invite your students into a Canva class. And if you just Google on the department, in fact, I can put the link there for you to invite your students in. If people have got iPads, there's Apple Everyone Can Draw. If you navigate your way, download that app if you've got it, and go to section 9. It's a whole infographics design sort of thing. So you could create an infographics using Apple or Canva and share it and put that message out, but share it back with your teachers. And if your teachers do an amazing job and they share it with us, we're going to put it on this page so everyone can see what you created. So that is your challenge. I went 1 minute over. Sorry, everyone.
Thank you, Sandy, for sharing the resources. Now, teachers, what we will do at the end of today's session, probably a little bit later this afternoon, everyone who has signed in with a det.nsw email address, that's how I'll identify you as the teacher. I'll actually email you the link to this page. So if you didn't get to register, I will find your email address because you've joined with your @det.nsw email, and I can send you these resources. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us. What a fantastic morning. Prue and Tom, thank you so much for your work and for your time. Everyone, have a great day. Sandy, thank you for moderating and creating a challenge.
And I will be putting the video of today into this chat here. Okay.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, guys.
Thank
Have
you
a
very
great
much.
day.
Bye-bye.
Bye.